Blessing. Welcome to the Law Enforcement Daily Devotional, where we take the truths of God's Word and we try to apply them to our work as law enforcement officers. Today's read was out of Judges, chapters 13 through 16. And if you read this, you're prepared for this. It's all about Samson. And Samson is one of the most interesting characters in the Bible. We'll just leave it at that. But as I got through this and looking for some positive characteristics, I mean, Samson was a great warrior, and the Bible starts off saying that Samson will begin to deliver Israel from their enemies. He will begin that process, but it'll be carried out through David and even Saul, but a bunch of other kings as Israel's history builds, and we'll see this. But just wanted to talk about how God gave Samson some incredible gifts and some incredible opportunities. He didn't always seem to make the most of them. He didn't honor God like we would hope he would in some of the gifts and some of the things that he did. But I also thought, wow, God gave me some incredible opportunities and some incredible gifts. And do I always honor God with my gifts and my talents and my opportunities? And the answer is no. So I can learn from Samson, see where he went wrong, and try not to make the same mistakes. So I think from a law enforcement perspective, we can all look at that and see what opportunities we've missed, or how we've even acted in some of the power that God's given us, but not turned around and given God the glory and the credit for the works that he gave us to perform. Um, Before the time runs out, the one really cool thing I get out of chapters 13 through 16 um, is I made this list of parallels between Samson and David, and we're going to get into Samuel here in a couple of days, and we're going to start reading first about Saul, but then we're going to read about David and the things that King David does. But there's a lot of similarities between the two here. Um, Samson began to deliver Israel from the Philistines, and that's Judges 13:5. Um, and we see that almost all of David's battles are against the Philistines. The bulk of the battles we see against the Philistines are with David. Samuel, the Spirit stirred in him, and then that's in 13:25, and then in 1 Samuel 16:13 we see the Spirit come upon David. So they both get the Spirit of God before the Spirit was readily available to everybody who accepted Christ. Of course, this all Old Testament times, so getting the Spirit was huge back then. Um, Samuel um, wanted this girl, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer, and it didn't turn out really good for him. We know that David wanted Bathsheba, and he wouldn't take no for an answer, and that didn't turn out well for him. Um, Samuel, when he goes into battle, he yells, who are these uncircumcised Philistines? And we know David said the exact same thing when he was fighting Goliath. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine who taunts the armies of God? Um, in 14:6, we see that Samson killed a lion when David was a shepherd. We read in 1 Samuel 17:36 that David killed a lion. Samson um, was a companion of Philistines. And we know that as David was running away from Saul, at one point he lived in the land of the Philistines and he was a companion of Philistines. Um, Samson's first wife was given away by her father, taken away from Samson and given away to another man. The same thing happens to David in 1 Samuel 24:44. Saul gives David's first wife away. Just really interesting. We find in Judges 15:8 that Samson hid in a cave, and we know that in 1 Samuel chapter 24, David hides in the cave at Adullam. Um, Samson is betrayed by the Israelites in 15:11. Um, there's a couple times David is betrayed by Israelites. One in particular is 1 Samuel 23:19, where he's at a city called Ziph, and he had just saved them from the Philistines. But then Saul comes after him and they betray him and they turn around and tell Saul, hey, David's over at our city, come get him. Uh, in Judges 15:15, Samson killed 1,000 men. In 1 Samuel 18:7, they say David killed his tens of thousands while Saul killed his thousands. So they were both credited for killing thousands of enemy warriors. Samson 15:8. Samson became thirsty after a battle. Now, this is not uncommon, but the Bible specifically mentions he gets thirsty. And then in 2 Samuel 23:16, David mentions he's thirsty during a battle to his in the presence of his three mighty men who do this amazing feat going through the enemy lines and going, grabbing water and then coming back. Just an amazing story, but there's a lot of similarities. So with that, I think there's a lot of similarities between you and I and Samson and the gifts that God's given him and how we use them. So make sure you use God's gifts well. Be safe out there, and I'll see you tomorrow.